Hi, everyone, and welcome to our next session for Dialysis at Home 2025. My name is Lauren Andracu, and I'm the Director of Curriculum Development at the American Kidney Fund, and I'll be your moderator for this next session called Making the Switch, Adapting to Life with Home Dialysis. If you just joined our last session, you heard from a medical professional talk about the different home dialysis options, the pros and cons for each. And now we're going to shift gears. We're going to hear from people who actually lived through this transition. So they went from in-center dialysis to different home dialysis modalities. And they'll be here to share about different considerations they thought about before making the switch and lifestyle changes they had to think through. So really excited about today's panelists. And without further ado, we're going to make some introductions. So first we have David Rush. David is a platinum selling artist, singer-songwriter, motivational speaker, and kidney health advocate. David was an early adopter of home hemodialysis in 2009 and completed a 40-city world tour while on home dialysis. His mission is to educate, advocate, and drive prevention so that fewer people face the battles he's conquered. Welcome, David. Next, we have Christina Gilchrist. Christina is a kidney health advocate who transformed her experience with kidney disease and blindness into a story of strength and resilience. Diagnosed as a teen and facing kidney failure in her 20s, she overcame a failed transplant and years of in-center dialysis before transitioning to home therapies. She now shares her story to inspire others, reminding patients that I don't live to do dialysis, I do dialysis to live. Welcome, Christina. And finally, we are also joined by Joan Williams. Joan is an educator, entrepreneur, and kidney health advocate with more than 18 years of experience in public and private education, now serving as the Title I program coordinator at the Arkansas Department of Education. Living with lupus and having experienced peritoneal dialysis, in-center hemodialysis, and a kidney transplant, Joan uses her journey to empower others through advocacy, mentorship, and faith. Joan also co-founded Beyond Conquerors LLC, serves on the Next Stage Fresenius Patient Advisory Board, and supports the Lupus Foundation of Arkansas. Thank you all for being with us today. Before we get started, I wanted to share that we will have a Q&A at the end of today's session, so please feel free to drop your questions in the chat and we'll do our best to get to them. Now to start off for today's conversation, I'd like to turn it to David. So David's gone from in-center dialysis to home hemodialysis. David, can you walk us through what your experience has been like with dialysis in general, and then in particular with that transition?
Sure, Lauren. Thanks for having me, guys. Glad you guys are logged into this special event we're doing today. Well, basically with me, my journey all started back in high school. I was diagnosed with kidney disease then went through college and everything, not understanding what it was, not really paying attention to what it was because I felt fine, as a lot of patients do. Ended up crashing into dialysis in 2007, woke up on a machine, confused, scared, all those things that we go through as patients, and really didn't know too much about it. After that, I ended up going in-center for a while and was just doing dialysis. I was doing hemo in-center for a while, and I was doing music at the same time as well, and actually had landed a record deal with Pitbull and wanted to do a tour with him, which I did. I learned about home hemodialysis by just searching it. At that time, it really wasn't a big thing going on in the dialysis world. It was known but not trusted as much yet, but I wanted to still follow my dream because I feel like so many were taken from me in the beginning. And when I finally found one, I went there, trained on a machine for 6 weeks, and ended up taking it on a whole 42 city tour all over the world, every city. I treated in every hotel room and never missed a show alongside Pitbull and a great team that was with me. It wasn't easy, but it was an experience that kind of showed me that I can do anything, and that I wasn't scared to branch out and live my life and find purpose in what I was doing. Scared as well, but my transition from home, the best thing for me was allowing me to have time back. We lose a lot of time as patients. And sitting on a machine, doing over 25 hours of dialysis a week in the center, I was like, man, I felt like I was just losing time sitting there, kind of rotting away, and wanted to still find purpose in my life as much as I did. And home dialysis gave that to me. It worked for me. And I ended up being able to say yes to more things, do more things. I became a motivational speaker. I travel all over the world speaking about living on dialysis, living with dialysis. Early education is so key to me, and becoming a patient advocate and educating others about the disease is something I never thought I would be doing, but it is my life now, and home dialysis has allowed me to do that. High blood pressures, high phosphorus numbers, high potassiums, like a lot of people have been able to negate some of that with home treatment and a change of a good diet and listening to my doctors, listening to my health professionals of what to do, and learning from myself, I think, is the biggest key. And I think that challenges that I faced early on was just acceptance, just accepting that this was happening and that it wasn't going away anytime soon. I was transplanted in 2010. I lost that transplant in 2017 and it back on dialysis. So I had to accept that this was going to be part of my life for a long time, and that I had to find a way to kind of fight through this thing the best way I knew how, and help others too on the way to help them fight through it as they could on their own terms. Even though we all have the same diseases, we all have our own mountains and different ways that we go about them. My job is to just help you guys see that you can conquer that mountain one step at a time and keep climbing. Resources that are important to me was just having people to speak to, that, you go walk into a dialysis center and be 40 other patients and you think you're by yourself and you feel like, man, no one else is going through this, even though people right next to you are doing the same thing. And so when you're able to accept that and say, man, there's people doing the same thing as me. And even though we all have our own underlying issues, there's people you could relate to. A great healthcare team who doesn't try to relate to you being a dialysis patient, but who relates to you being a patient and a person is the biggest thing. Keeping your identity, knowing you're more than a flow sheet, that you're a person who has a heartbeat, you're someone's mom, uncle, dad, aunt, cousin, you're somebody, you have purpose, you have meaning. And those are the things that help me to support myself and support others. So for me, it's just more important that your mind state, which is something that's really not talked about enough in our community, is the mental health aspect. Your mind state is such a big part of the battle. You keep your mind right, surround your people who love you, support you, and will tell you the truth. And a health team that will tell you the truth and love and support you as well will allow you to see things a little bit differently on this journey that we're on together. And just make sure that your mind is clear, you understand, you learn, you ask questions, and give yourself a chance to really win doing that. So, whether it's transplant, hemodialysis, peritoneal, whatever you do, just make sure, know that you have a purpose, you're a person, you're loved, and continue to fight for yourself and learn as much as you can.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, David. It sounds like you've learned so much along the way and have, found the support and the resources that you need. I just want to follow up with that. When you were making that transition from in-center to home dialysis, what did that conversation look like with your healthcare professional to decide what modality was best for you? And, thinking about the importance of a care partner, did they emphasize that? What was the care partner's role as you went into the training as well? Can you just walk through what that looked like?
Sure. I mean, I call the why. I found my why really early. For some people, it's different for everyone. I was young. I was only 24, 25 years old. I was just starting my career in music, and I wanted to be able to still do that despite of my disease. So I kind of found a why. The care team really wasn't big on home dialysis yet, so I kind of had to find it for myself. But once I found it for myself, I realized there was another world that just wasn't talked about enough. So when I went over there, it was kind of like a bravery thing. Like, wow, a lot of people aren't doing this. You're brave for this. And I chose home hemo only just for the simple fact I was young and didn't want anything in my stomach. Mm-hmm. I just didn't, it's just a cosmetic decision for me. And that was it. There was no real, science into it. And as far as a care partner, my girlfriend, now wife, was there with me since high school. She's seen this from when it started, from its inception to when I woke up on dialysis, to when I was transplanted, to when I lost it. She's been here through all of that. So, a care partner for me is not just your spouse or your loved one. It's people in your circle. My kids, my dog's a care partner. My wife, she plays the biggest role, but family members who are not even here and just show support, they all have a bit of care partners for me. So she had to learn too. Luckily, she was in healthcare for a while, so she understood the X's and O's of everything, and did her part there for me. She doesn't really like sticking my needles. I do that myself, but she's great at getting a saline for me and even better at getting me a snack when needed. And, dialysis isn't easy at all. It's a rough thing. And I have my days. I'm literally holding my site. I just finished treatment. And so there's very rough days and there's good days. And I just always tell patients, live to treat another day. You don't have a good day today, take a step back, try to find a silver lining and know that tomorrow will be better. So I've lived like that. That's not a game. That's not like fake cliche things to say on this This is really how I live my life. And it allows me to continue every day and fight as much as I can.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, it doesn't get more real than that you just finished up a treatment. So thank you for making time to fit us into your schedule and all that you do.
Of course. Thank you.
At this point, we're going to transition. But before we do, I'm just going to remind everyone, we will have a Q&A at the end of this session. So feel free to drop your questions in the chat. I see some coming in already. So reminder, this is a session called Making the Switch, Adapting to Life with Home Dialysis. And we're going to shift gears. We talked to David, who did home hemodialysis or is doing home hemodialysis. And we're going to switch gears and talk to Christina Gilchrist and her journey about switching from in-center. And she's actually experienced a few different home dialysis modalities. So Christina, can you talk to us about your journey with home dialysis and switching from in-center to home dialysis?
Sure. I've got quite a long story. So I'll just start with when I was 12, I went in for a sports physical and found out I had a kidney disease. And so life went on like normal. When I was 22, I got pregnant. During that pregnancy, I developed toxemia, which is also known as preeclampsia. And I went into seizures. And during those seizures, I lost my eyesight, and my kidney disease, it just kind of ramped that in full force. And so I was completely blind for about 6 months. After I went on some medication, some of my vision came back, my peripheral vision. So I'm left with, I have no central vision. So everybody's looked at the sun and you get like that blind spot. I have that. It just never goes away. And it's a little bigger than the sun. So also I went into kidney failure. And so it was time to start planning. And I live in Utah and have 8 siblings. So of course, all our focus went on getting a transplant. And I did go get a fistula just in case. And I did have to do about a month and a half of dialysis before I got my transplant. But December 9th of 2008, my big brother gave me a kidney transplant. And it's funny because at the time, after I had just been through everything, giving birth to my daughter, I jokingly told everyone it was like getting a drive-through kidney because it just seemed so easy after everything else. And I spoke too soon. Because sadly, I did end up rejecting that kidney. And I had it for about 1.5 years, but then we fought it for about another year. I was not able to stop it, so we had to remove that kidney. And it was time to start in-center. And when I started in-center, I was given no other options. I was just told, these are your days, show up and be here. And I remember at the time I had heard PD. I didn't know what it was. I just heard PD. And so I was like, hey, can I do PD? And he's like, no, you're blind. You can't do that. And so I was like, yeah, you're probably right. And so I ended up doing about 5.5 years on in-center dialysis. And I was a single mom and being legally blind, like dialysis for me wasn't go to dialysis, come home and just crash. Like I didn't have that option. I was going to dialysis. I was coming home. I was walking a mile to my daughter's school to pick her up, walk home, and then she had soccer practice. So then we walk a mile in the other direction to soccer practice. And you get home and you have food, you have cleaning, you have homework, shower, you're constantly on the go. And I was in my 20s, just like David was. And so a lot of people don't realize that your life totally gets put on pause. You sit and you watch everybody else around you live their lives while you just exist and just fight to get to that next treatment. And like I watched all my friends get married. I watched them all have kids. I watched them all go on vacations. Just those little things that make life important. And I didn't get to do any of those. I was just barely surviving. And I did get that amazing phone call that there was another kidney waiting for me. And so May 7th of 2016, I got my second kidney transplant, and things started super great. I decided that my life was no longer going to be on pause, so we pushed play, and I actually talked to my 10-year-old daughter, and I was like, hey, I think mom's going to start dating. And so she was like, oh, okay, I think you should. Well, just a while later, she comes up to me and she's like, you have a date this Friday. And I was like, what does that even mean? And she was like, well, I got you a date. And I was like, how? And she was like, I've been talking to a guy on Facebook for you. And I was like, oh, honey, no, that's not how this is done. And so I had to read all the messages to me. And this guy actually seemed pretty nice, you guys. So that Friday, I decided, hey, I'm going to go. And so he called me and said, hey, I'm a single dad. Can I bring my daughter? And I said, well, I'm a single mom. I'll bring my daughter. And it was like that day I walked out to the car, and it was like all those nights I had sat home thinking, nobody's going to love me. I'm never going to have a real marriage like other people do. I'm never going to have a real family. Like, I was never going to have what everybody else gets, you know? And that was just such a hard thing to grasp. And that day when I walked out to the car and I saw this man, and I look in the back seat and I see this adorable little girl, I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is living. And so I did. I lived it up. But sadly, shortly after I met that fella, I found out that I was going through rejection again. And so I tried to hide it from him for a little while, but I couldn't do that. And this time I had more time. So I was like, do you know what? I'm going to do my research and I'm going to prepare. So I went online, I looked up whatever this PD is, and I found out what it is. And I was like, do you know what? There's no reason I can't do that. So I started shopping for nephrologists that would let me do home. And sadly, I had to go to 5 different nephrologists, and all of them told me no. And I went to my original doctor and just basically broke him down. And we started training, and we came up with ideas. Like, we did a lot of thinking outside the box. And everyone knows you have to have a sterile connection when you hook PD lines. I can't do that with my vision because it just doesn't line up every time. So what we would do is I would hold the lines, and then I would feel my pinkies together by feel, and then roll your fingers, and it lines up perfect every time. And so I went home on dialysis. I'm very proud to say I did 3 years of dialysis. I hooked it up. I set it up, everything, not one infection. And PD, guys, like, I was shocked at how PD made me feel compared to in center. I felt amazing. Like, it was bananas. I felt like a human again. And I kept living this life, you know? I got to keep this life. And speaking of, I got to marry that man. I got married on PD. I had a catheter under my dress. Nobody knew. I was normal. I was just a wife like everybody else. And I went on a honeymoon, all these things I just never thought I'd have. And PD gave me all of those. And I found out that PD was no longer working because I had abdominal adhesion. And so that's when it was like, okay, home hemo, how do we do this? And sadly, with home hemo, I couldn't do it on my own. I had to ask that guy, who's now my husband, if he would help me. And of course, he switched to nights immediately and was like, let's do this. He started a support group because he wanted to have questions answered while we were going through the process. And crazy enough, that support group just blew up. But when I went home on hemo, it was beautiful because I actually got to show my family what dialysis was. We all know what it's like to walk into a center by ourselves, but we don't get to walk our families in there so they can actually see. I had my whole family over, and they saw me sitting on dialysis, doing dialysis. And for the first time ever, dialysis became what it truly is. It wasn't, oh, Aunt Stina can't come, she's doing dialysis, or Aunt Stina's sick, she doesn't feel good, she did dialysis. It was what dialysis really is. All my nieces and nephews were like, they pushed my blood pressure button. They were like, we're saving Aunt Stina's life. We just saved Aunt Stina. And it became the beautiful thing that it is. We are the only people that when our kidney fails, we have a machine that can keep us alive, you guys. And how lucky is that? And so I did home hemo during the day for about a year. And then I found out about nocturnal, and I had heard that nocturnal is equivalent to having a deceased donor transplant. And so I was like, okay, sign me up. And so basically what nocturnal looks like for me is I do 4 days a week and I do 7.5-hour treatments. I actually hook up when we go to bed. I fall asleep. My husband gets up for work. We unhook. He goes to work. I go back to bed. And it works great. And I tell you what, guys, doing nocturnal has totally opened my life up to so many things. Just like David said, I never thought my life would be surrounded by helping people learn how to do this and making this livable. And that's what we do on our page. We try to show our tricks and our cheats, so you can prepare things ahead of time. So if you are running late, you still have your treatment ready and you still have your life set out. And so I have now been doing nocturnal just over 3 years, and I got the most amazing gift in the world last year. Well, a year and 9 months ago, is I became a grandma, which is so amazing. I can't even explain to you guys. When I was 22 and they said you have 6 to 7 years to live, there was no grandma in my future, and I am a grandma now. And I am healthy. My labs, it's actually really funny because I just went and met with my doctor yesterday for my clinics, and he's sitting there looking at my labs and he's like, gosh, they're just so good. Oh my gosh, look at these labs. They're so pretty. Oh my gosh. And I was like, I know, like I am one of the only patients that gets told, go home and eat some cheese because your phosphorus is on the lower end. And that's incredible for me. And so through this process, what I've learned is speak up for yourself. You have to be your own advocate. You have to make sure you're asking the questions. And if you don't know the questions, get on a support group so you can find out the questions. Ask all the questions. Say, hey, I want to be able to do all these things in my life. What modality is going to be the best option for me? And also transplant. I had 2 transplants. Sadly, neither of them worked, but I am on the list again, and I am hopeful that there will be a treatment in the future for my disease. And so I would like to add that I live by a theory, and my theory is I don't live to do dialysis. I do dialysis to live. And thank you for having me.
Thanks, Christina. What a lovely story. I have so many thoughts. I don't even know where to start. So first of all, congratulations on becoming a grandma. That's huge. And I must say, what dedication your daughter has at such a young age to set up a date for you, and that person becomes your husband. So really lovely. And it sounds like all these different, nocturnal and PD, they were both life-changing for you in different ways. It made you feel a lot better. So just kudos to you for being that advocate who really, dedicated trying to find a nephrologist who would allow you to do that. It sounds like, a support system seems really important for all of these home dialysis modalities and for everyone. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about that. So how can you prepare if someone is considering transitioning to home dialysis, any of the different modalities? How can you prepare your family and friends for what you're going to go through and what that support will need to look like?
Yeah, so I definitely think join a support group and have your family join the support group as well. They're going to be just as lost as you are, and they're going to have all the same questions. So you want to involve them. And so you want to make them feel comfortable as well. And like one thing that me and Mike, he's my care partner, what we came up with is I think it's as a patient, we are responsible for our own treatment. Even if we can't do it on our own and someone's helping us, we need to be able to step up and do the things we can do. And that's one thing, like care partner burnout is such a big deal. And our families, they really do get burnout by us sometimes because this is a job, And so we need to step up and we need to make sure we're setting up the machine when we can. We're breaking it down. And I can say I am legally blind, but I can set up my next stage machine completely on my own. I can break it down, everything. So I can have it completely ready to where my husband just comes home, we hook up, and then we go to sleep. And so that's a big thing I try to do is be mindful of your family members and your care partners and what they're putting out there for you, and give them the same in return.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you, Christina, for sharing your story and for answering all of our questions. We'll have more for you at the end of the session. So I'm going to turn it to Joan. So Joan has experience with peritoneal dialysis, but I'm not going to tell her story for her. So Joan, would you walk us through your experience, experience in general, but then transitioning from in-center to PD and what that was like for you?
I guess it would help if I would unmute myself, right? So come along with me, you all. And I apologize, my notifications are going off. It's actually one of the support groups that Christina was talking about. They're just jumping away, and I was supposed to turn those off. So please forgive me, Jesse. But I started on peritoneal dialysis because I had an amazing nephrologist who was just adamant about allowing me to go ahead and do what I needed to do to be able to continue my life in a beautiful kind of way. And because I was peritoneal, everything was already going great, as some of the other ones have talked about. And all of a sudden, I had to make the switch to peritoneal, to in-center, because I developed peritonitis, of all things, while I was in the hospital. So in order for me to be able to go back on peritoneal, I had to go in-center for about 3 to 5 months, and until the site healed, where I could go back again and be on peritoneal. So 3 to 5 months again, and it was rough. It was hard for me, because what I felt like, and David talked about it, was I missed most of the time. So I was a very busy mom. My kids, were, even at a young age, they were always doing things. I have two. Chauncey is 25 now, and Tegan is 19. So they were much younger. Then had lots of activities. So going in center, I would have to be there, maybe 3 to 4 days, or 3 days a week, and 4 hours at a time sometimes. And if I wasn't called back right away, I would have to wait. So that's increasing the time. And then if my blood pressure dropped while I was in there, you would have to be laid flat in order to have your blood pressure increase enough to resume treatment. So then there again, the time was extended. And and let's not even mention how cold it was in there. I mean, I'm shivering just thinking about, just reminiscing. It was frigid cold in there. Has to be, because of germs and safety and all those things. And then the next day after having treatment in center, I would maybe start feeling better and stronger, only to have to go back the next day and do it all over again. So, peritoneal, for me, I just couldn't wait for the site to heal so I could get another tube in my belly. And yes, David, the cosmetic thing is not fun. It's not cute. So the Beyonce belly went out. It went out. Okay, it just went out. So that doesn't happen. But anyway, got the new tube in. We were able to go ahead and continue. So peritoneal gave me my work-life balance. So started out, it was, I wasn't as bad. The kidneys weren't as bad. So maybe 8 hours a night, but then progressively over the years, it got worse. So when I ended was 12 hours a night. So if you do the math, the math is math. And so I would have to get on at 8:30 p.m. at the latest, dialyze 12 hours, to have to disconnect and do all those things to get to work at 8 o'clock the next day. Now, I figured out quickly how to be a master of pockets of time, is what I call them. So get off at 4:30. So I would have maybe 5 o'clock to 8:30 to get the things done that I needed to get done. And if in fact the kids had something, when you're on peritoneal, you use your cycler, but also you have manual bags there, which, like, if in the case of needing to do like something extra, you could actually manually do your treatments. And so a lot of times I would have to implement those if the Chauncey had a poetry event, or Tegan had a volleyball game or something. So but peritoneal just really created a way for me to go ahead and do the things I needed to do until the kiddos had time to where they could fend for themselves, and then I didn't have to worry so much about them. But I was able to just do my regular routine with a lot of advanced planning. I was able to do that and really experience a sense of normalcy, I would say, that really was important to me, because I did a lot. I volunteered a lot. I went a lot of places, did a lot of things. And it was just important for me to get back to feeling a little bit about me. But the main thing I should say, terrified of all of it. Christina spoke about it. David spoke about it. But I had a nephrologist. If you don't know his name, you're getting ready to know him now. His name is Shane Kimball. He is amazing. He saw in me something that I did not see in myself. And I'm a pretty positive person. I mean, I wake up with the joy of the Lord in my heart, every day. But I mean, when you're faced with a life-changing thing that's gonna, where you have to sit with yourself for 12 hours, the positivity kind of goes and comes. But he said, you're going to do peritoneal, you can do it. And I can't do it. Yes, you're going to do it. You're going to come in here, you're going to train, and you're going to learn. So there, me, and let me just pause. I didn't have the blessing of having the care partner in a spouse or a boyfriend or anything like that. As a matter of fact, when I went on dialysis, the person that I thought in my corner, he left and said, basically, everything has to be about you. Well, I want to live. So yeah, I can't go on a date at 8 o'clock at night if I have to be on a machine. So can we go at 5? But there again, no, that was too much to ask. So I had to tough it out. But Dad and I, he traded in his welder boots for being caregiver until my mom took ill. And then Chauncey, he graduated and he turned in his honors college jacket and all the things. He graduated from college and he graduated into being primary caregiver when Dad had to go care for Mom until she passed away. So I was blessed in that I had that. And I have, 3 brothers that came as, when I needed them and from time to time. So that was my support system. So yeah, support system was very, very important. And but Dr. Kimball was the one. He brought in my dad and I, and they trained us in all things peritoneal. And Dad had to learn how to put everything from the medicine in the machines to ordering my supplies to organizing everything. And we found when he started caring for my mom, we found that this notebook, we were straightening the area up out there. The notebook is one of those old composition books, the black and white ones, that you get when you're in school, where he had from the first order I ever had made, where he had written down what he ordered, how much of each thing. I could not believe. I'm like, this is way too much. This is too much. So basically, when Chauncey and I had to kind of start caring for me because Dad was caring for Mom, we had to go back to training again because I didn't even know how to put medicine in the machine. I didn't know how to do anything. So I'm telling you, caregivers are amazing, but at the same time, we do, as Christina talked, you can't let them do everything. You still have to do some things on your own because it puts a weightiness on your caregivers that will increase burnout. But I tell you, my dad made it so easy for me. I could go to work and do my thing. And when I would come home, my machine would already be on. The bags would be warmed. All I had to do is shower, wash my hands, sanitize, connect, get on, and just sit, watch TV, whatever I needed to do till the next day. So he did that for years until Mom, 2023, she passed. I got a kidney in 2020, July 24, 2023. Mom passed away August 29th, 2023. And I tell you, everything it's been hard. Dialysis is doable. You can do it, but the support system is definitely key. And I've been healthier. Everything has been better for me, and I was able to get what I needed to fill my own cup. And having that sense of independency, that's what peritoneal did for me. Did spend some time in center, but if I had to do it all over again, yeah, I would. But I would definitely advocate, please find a way. If you can find another piece of skin to stick a tube in, let me go back home.
Well, thank you, Joan. It sounds like you have quite the village and different people stepped up when they needed to. So it's really nice to have a few different people in your corner. And it sounds like your quality of life significantly changed afterwards. You were able to balance the work life, the family aspect too. So what a great change. We have a few minutes left. So I think we have time for maybe one question for the group. I think we can start with one around, your healthcare team. So going from in-center where you have to go into the center multiple times a week to home dialysis that looks different. So, and this is for the three of you. But what did your healthcare look like afterwards in terms of going to appointments, in terms of the role of telehealth? Did you feel like you still had the support of your healthcare team from a distance?
Are we just popcorning out, or?
Joan, we're going to go to you first, and then we can bring up David and Christina.
Well, nothing ever changed for me. Dr. Kimball, those people there at that office were always there. Now, I got my kidney at Vanderbilt in Nashville. So and they were always communicating, which was always very important. So my team here in Little Rock knew what was going on in Nashville, vice versa. They always talked. And that was very helpful for me when I was in center. The things Dr. Kimball would come in and do rounds there every now and then. But basically, when you're in center, you kind of have a different experience with your caregiver than when I was on peritoneal. I would come in and you could do your healthcare provider could do chair side, or you could do a separate. And I always chose to do it mine chair side, nothing extra. Whenever I would come in, he would come in, and if I needed extra things or extra help on something, the nurses were always there. So I really did have the village, and it was really interesting to see how things worked having two states involved in the healthcare. But I was always able to get what I needed. I had advocacy across the board.
Great, thank you. Let's see, David and Christina, rapid fire. How did yours change?
Go ahead, Christina.
Okay. So I would say my biggest change is like when you go in center, you have like all these nurses that help you, all these techs, and none of them are really yours. When you go home, you get assigned like a team, a nurse. And like, I think I got better care at home. And because you actually gain more control of your own health and you get stronger mentally, you learn your numbers and you learn how to manage them almost on your own. And so I feel like I have so much support now. It's like overwhelming. So yeah, I think the support either way, I think it's incredible, but home specifically.
Yeah, definitely. I think to piggyback off of that, when you get home, you do have like a specific care team that's for you. Even though they see other patients, they're more relative to you. You know, in center, sometimes you do develop these relationships though with the techs. So shout out to the in-center techs and the community there, the social workers, the dietitians. You do develop a relationship, but they're pulled between so many different people that they need to deal with that you don't feel that you're getting that personal care that you may want. Some people do want it. Some people don't. Some people like to be in the cut and not really get no attention placed on them. But with home dialysis, you're allowed to talk to your nurse. You know, I've had conversations with my nurse. I've cried in the nurse's office before. I've been able to talk to them and be honest with them and vulnerable in that one-on-one setting. And I think that works for me, for the type of person that I am. That what works for me. And then, you know, if you have an issue, there's one person you got to call. You're not calling to try and get in touch with somebody. You know who you're calling. You have a name. You can place that face to a name, and it just makes it a little easier to communicate. And you get that independence and kind of get a little bit of your life back. Feeling that little control, because you lose a lot of control when you start out. You lose a lot of control, time, and like you're told when to be. It's like having a job. You know, you're told when to be there. If you miss it, you know, it's like, you can't come back to the next day. It's like with this, you can kind of navigate a little bit better, and having them, they want you to be independent. So having that support from them too allows you to feel like you're doing something on your own, and that the disease isn't controlling your life as much, and you kind of a little bit more control. So that's the benefits of having that healthcare team that's kind of for you, like Christina said.
Wonderful. Thank you. You guys are all great advocates for home dialysis, speaking to a lot of the benefits here. So we are about at time. So I just want to do one final thank you to our panelists. It takes great courage to share your story in general, but share your story on such a public platform. But you all also know the benefits for our audience. So people considering home dialysis or who are currently on home dialysis, and they can hear from someone like them or someone a little bit further down the road. So just thank you. You all have been tremendous. Let's see, up next are some expo booths. So there will be some expo booths. It's a new feature for this event, and you can find that to the left of your live stream after this session. You can click on expo booths and you'll be brought in. You can jump into live streams with 3 different AKF programs, and you can learn about them both from AKF staff and program participants. So that's going on at 12:30. And then at 1 p.m., there'll be our next session on the main stage on mental health. Thank you to our audience as well. You guys have been so engaging with your questions and comments. And then finally, we do have a survey. So you'll see a survey pop in through the chat. Please take some time to go through that and provide some feedback about the positives and also about the things that we could do better. We always look at this and we're trying to improve this, over the years. So thank you so much, and everyone, enjoy the rest of your day.